It is time to continue where we last left off, and that was in the middle of an Araxxor task. We still have 165 left on task, so we're going to have to chip away at this. Hopefully we get our third and final Noxious Halberd piece. And of course, we are now back to multi-logging, playing on both accounts at the same time. Still working on thieving here. We are now 81 thieving. Hit that pretty recently, actually, so it's going to be a little bit before we get to 82. First KC of the session. We do have a 1 KD though right now, haven't planked to Araxxor yet. There we go, 45 Earth Orbs. Again, Earth Orbs by themselves, not very interesting. It's not worth much GP when you look at the high out value here at 8.1k. I would need to make them into the Earth Battle Staff for it to be worth anything. Oh wow, this crept up on me. I guess we were only a few KC away from this little milestone to start out the day, but that's 1200 Araxxor KC, 70 U logs for that. Alright. 11 KC later, the check-in with 150 left on task. No luck yet. KC 1, 2, 3, 4. What are we gonna get? 3 teleports. Oh. Okay, I thought that was the Araxyte Fang for a second there, but we got the Noxious Pommel. KC 1238. Let's get out of here real quick. Open up the collection log. But that is the Noxious Halberd completed. 1238. Finally. Okay, the only thing remaining on this collection log to green log it is the pet itself, which I've talked about several times in the past over the course of this grind. I don't know if I could bring myself to destroy the loot for better pet chances. I don't know. But I don't really want the pet or the Rancour S right now anyways, so I think we're going to be moving on to another grind. Well, before that, I guess, let's go ahead and make our Noxious Halberd. I'm not even sure how you do that. Maybe you just combine the pieces? Into the bank, let's just search for all our Noxious Halberd pieces. The point we got pretty recently, and this blade has actually been sitting in the bank for probably over a year at this point. Okay, now that we have all 3 pieces, I'm assuming we just used them on each other. Do you wish to combine all 3 pieces to create a Noxious Halberd? This process is non-reversible. Yes. Oh, just like that. Oh, a little bit of crafting and smithing EXP. There it is. Very nice, very nice. This is going to be really, really useful for us to do Melee Inferno. I think it's going to help out in the Coliseum as well. And maybe at some other locations that I can't think of right now. But those 2 things for sure for the combat achievements on our way to Grandmaster. A clanmate just asked me when I got my Araxyte Fang, if I'm just now getting my Noxious Halberd completed. Well, I did some digging, and I found a screenshot, but unfortunately the screenshot does not actually showcase the actual KC in which I got the Araxyte Fang. However, I do see that in the sidebar for the loot tracker, I was at KC 466 for my Araxyte Fang. But we know that's not entirely accurate because as of right now, my actual Araxxor KC is 1237, but my loot tracker is missing precisely, I'm sorry, it's 1238, but my loot tracker is missing precisely 270 KC for whatever reason. Maybe it was just another case where the loot tracker was not working with the boss during our initial release. So I suppose we have to add 270. So our first Noxious Halberd piece, being the blade, was not on KC 125, but in fact it was on 295, if I can do math correctly. And which means this Araxyte Fang was pulled on KC 466 plus 270, 736. So I don't know why I'm doing all this math, because all it means is that I've actually been drier than I thought. It is what it is, though. Alright, I kind of just spewed a whole bunch of numbers there, but the final numbers to know. Noxious Blade at 395 KC, the Fang for the Amulet of Rancour at 736, we pulled the point at 1156, and the Pommel on 1238. In my excitement to make the Noxious Halberd, I didn't even bank the Noxious Point to create a placeholder for this tab I have here, which is mostly raid dupes and other maybe like flex related items. For example, I have the Metaphyte ornament kit here. I think I have the Blood Torva thing somewhere in here. I still have my Primordial, Eternals, and Pegasian boots, the Cerberus boots in here, the cloth, and my old Tormented bracelet. I don't know, I like to throw random things that might be a little bit notable in this tab. As you can see here, we have the point and the blade, but we don't have the pommel anymore. I'll try to remember when I get a second Noxious Halberd one day. And I do still have to continue doing Araxxor at some point in order to get the Rancour S. But for now, we have the Noxious Halberd, and I actually need to figure out where to slot this Noxious Halberd into this main gear tab I have here. We'll sort that out later, though. I have to figure out what we want to do next right now. Alright, now that we are done with the Noxious Halberd grind, I decided that we now have to go after the voidwaker. So first order of business is we are back at Calvarion. Our starting KC, well, I don't know what my exact starting KC is. We are well into the 2200s, though. So we are well overdue for the voidwaker blade that drops here. And then after that, even when we do pull the blade, we have to go for the other two pieces at Ardio and Spindle, respectively. Now, typically, I do have 416 here, my other account, standing outside as a scout, but currently I'm still at Varamore thieving, so no scout outside. Let's see how this goes. Am I gonna get a lot of PKers running in or not? Who knows? First KC right here, and I just made the realization I forgot my looting bag, so I suppose I should go get that. I do want some of the loot from here. Have to leave behind those blighted restores, unfortunately. Also, with that first KC, we now know our starting KC, 220 or 2284. The Voidwaker blade is a 1 in 912. Calvarion's a pretty low intensity and chill thing to do, so we've just been racking up the KC, completely missed the little milestone there of 2300 KC. I suppose it's not all that interesting though, as we still don't have the Voidwaker blade. There's no way I'm gonna go 3 times dry, right? You know, it's very unlikely to go 3 times dry on anything. It can happen though, and it definitely has happened to me before at other bosses, but surely not a wildy boss, right? Surely. Well, we are at an interesting place right now. We're back at Next. I shouldn't say back per se, because I don't think I've ever actually recorded anything at Next, as we were well past this grind by the time I started doing my YouTube series. Nevertheless, we are here at Next again. And I guess quick look at the collection log here. We're at 862, and I think I might have did a few extra KCs before ultimately, quote unquote, finishing Next, but we are missing the pet and Nextling. 862 KC. We are duoing Next right now, and I'm hoping I remember how to do Next. Well, unfortunately, I planked in the first one in. To be fair, duoing Next is probably not the first thing you want to do if you haven't done Next in a long time. You do have to play a little bit more particular, I suppose. There are certain strategies to minimize damage, and it's much more crucial in a duo setting than, say, a trio or plus. Well, since I have to re-KC to enter to Next again, I thought I might take this time to explain why I'm back at Next. For one thing, I am missing the Ancient God Sword, as I showed in the collection log earlier, and also currently it's the weekend, and I just finished my Araxxor grind for the Noxious Hallie anyways. Now, I want to get the Voidwaker next, but it currently is the weekend, and I'm not too sure I want to deal with the Wildy, during the weekend, so didn't really know what to get into, but I had a clanmate that wanted to do some Next because they are still missing the ZCB. So I thought, you know what, maybe I'll get my Ancient God Sword, and at worst, you know, maybe we'll make some GP here. Alright, so far on the second attempt, things are going much smoother. I have a ton more supplies going into P2 right now, and things are coming back to me as to how to do Next. I think technically the Twisted Bow is more optimal DPS on these Blood Reavers. Also, for each minion, each time we're dealing with a minion, we have one person tanking the minion only and one person tanking the boss only. So we're splitting the damage that we're taking. And yeah, hopefully we get a KC and many more afterwards. Another thing I want to point out is that for the bulk of my Next grind, I was neither Master CAs, I believe at most I was Elite. So I had to do more next KC, or rather ancient KC, to enter next room every time. And also my gear was nowhere near as good as it is now. Obviously I didn't have full Torva, I was working towards that. I didn't have the ZCB either for the bulk of it. In fact, I think the ZCB, the Nihil Horn, might have been my very last drop. I'm unsure of the timeline. I think I may have used the Amulet of Rancour for a little bit, but certainly not for the bulk of it. I think I did end up using Amulet of Blood Fury for the bulk of the grind. And of course things like the Avernic Treads, which we only very recently got, did not exist. First KC, some brews and restores. Cannonballs as well. Okay. I got MVP! Lots of brews. Oh man, when the loot is split between two people, so much loot. After getting that completion, we just realized that typically in a duo we would want to be camping Missouri armor, just to have more space for supplies. I guess in the max melee switch we've got the job done anyways. Okay, we in fact did not get the second KC. I think we need to drop the Torva top and bottoms. All of this just so I can get an ancient hilt for the ancient godsword that we're probably not going to use anywhere realistically. Although, the only reason I'm slightly motivated to do this is because I have been seeing some of the delve runs at the Doom of Mocha, and they seem to be using the ancient godsword there over the Cerdoman godsword for some sustainability. Also, I suppose above all else, it would be nice to complete the godsword set. We do have 4 out of 5 of the godswords, we're just missing this one. Alright, here we go. Our ZCB misses, classic. This is why the voidwaker is probably more... well, it's definitely more consistent, and it's probably the better option over the ZCB here at Nex. Here it comes. Oh my goodness, it smacked me for 27 right at the end there. But another KC, another supply drop with some blood runes to go with it. Huh, interesting. Another KC, this time we both have resources to spare. Some air orbs and dragon bolts unfinished. Got baited by the loot beam a little bit there. Soul runes and uncut rubies. I suppose that's a pretty decent supply drop. Here comes another one. We're stringing them together, I guess. Water runes and soul runes. Alright. It says I would have received an elite clue scroll. Well, that was a little disappointing. Kind of planked again. That was unfortunate, but we managed to get, I think, 6 or 7 KC there, and it was a bit of a relearning process, so I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to call that next session there. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing anyways, as, like I said, it's the weekend right now, and I do plan on going for the voidwaker, but I kind of don't want to go into the wilderness during peak hours. We'll have to see what we want to do for the rest of the weekend. Probably more raiding, some Theater of Blood, and if nobody's around, probably some solo CMs even. Again, I feel like I've mentioned this a few times, but I really need GP. My membership's running out soon, and I need to buy things on my main account, which, okay, it's not so much a need because I don't really play on my normal account anymore, but I do want to upkeep the gear on there and make sure I'm ready for any potential content that I might do. In the meantime, let's just do our typical Ironman things. For example, what is our next farming contract? A yew tree, we can do that. And we're also going to have to go on our herb run, which is arguably more important as prayer potions are being used left and right now. Over on 416 Hero, we're still parked at the very center of Varlamore here, and we're currently halfway to 82 thieving. Today is a Sunday, well, in the middle of Sunday, I guess. It's about 2, almost 3 p.m. So I imagine it's pretty busy today. So once again, no voidwaker grind until the weekend is over. I guess I'll start off tomorrow. In the meantime, though, I've been invited to do some more necks. So let's go ahead and KC right now. I'm not sure if it's going to be duo or trio at the moment. I guess we will find out. Actually, it looks like it's going to be trio. All right, let me just start KCing and then we'll get started on some necks. When you're building up essence for next KC, the best one to attack are the spiritual mages. You simply have to pray mage and then range them. The Twisted Bow obviously is very good, shocker, a mega rare, but you know, a blowpipe or even a bofo works just as well. Another tech is that you can also continue praying mage, but also put on your Surf Helm and blowpipe and tag these reavers. That way they will passively tick down and eventually die out, and you'll get KC credit for those too. I suppose when you do decide to tag all the reavers though, maybe perhaps consider turning off your game sounds, as it can be quite loud and constant. Not only is attacking the reavers and the mages convenient, but the mages actually offer the most essence per KC. The unique thing about getting KC at next is not all of them are equal. I believe the spiritual mages give you 5 KC per actual KC, 5 essence per actual KC. I'm not quite sure about the reavers, I think it's like 3 or 4. It's been a while since I did this. But you can see there, actually, after finishing that major, we jumped from 46 to 51. So not only is it convenient, as you can just choose to protect mage, but you also get KC the quickest this way. I did forget to pot a anti-poison or even bring one with me though. I do think the mages, occasionally their mage attack does poison you. Now these warriors and rangers don't even bother with. For one thing, the rangers, you have to pray range, and that way you can't attack the reavers. Also, I believe the melees and rangers have some special attack ability, which is very, very annoying and actually quite deadly. So the mages are definitely the go-to. We're just waiting on the teammates now. I think the first couple of KCs we're going to be doing some duos, and the other person, the third person, is going to join us a bit later. In the meantime though, let me talk about, once again, what we're after here at Nex. So earlier I mentioned wanting the Ancient Godsword. However, getting the other Torva pieces or even another Nihil Horn would be pretty good, so that I can hand it on over to 416 Hero. The ZCB especially. However, Torva, I'm not so sure. It is something that I may want to get just in case one day if I want to move on from the 50 defense restriction on that account. The good news is that if I do pull those, I'll have the dupe pieces already available, right? And I think I have some dupe Bandos pieces sitting around too. I'm not sure if it's enough, but I definitely do have some. The bad news is, if I do decide to keep the Torva pieces that I pull, I'm splitting out my GP and I'm not actually making any GP. However, if the other 2 pull pieces, I mean, it's a win all around for me. I'm just going to get some GP. I haven't quite decided what I want to do yet, so I'm going to have to figure this out. And in the meantime, until the drop, I have all that time to think about it, I guess. Plot twist, I'm going to pull a drop first KC of this next session. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we're starting out the session with a few duos, and then our trio is going to join us later. But on the first KC here, my teammate seemed to have not put any arrows in his quiver. So we had the melee P2, which is a typical strategy in trios anyways. However, not so much in a duo. But I think we managed to make it work. Now we're just trying to secure this first KC. One more hit here, perhaps. I'm brewing. That was scary. Alright. We made it work despite him not having a ranged weapon to use there. Alright, Soul Runes and Wines of Zami. Let's get out of here. Alright, looks like we only had to do one scuffed duo. Now we're doing trios, which honestly is going to be so much easier. So in a trio setting, it is optimal to bring the full melee switch along with your Missouri whenever you're ranging. In a duo though, probably want to drop them Torva chest piece and legs for more supplies. First trio KC, that went by a lot quicker. What are we getting? Some EQ key shards and supply drop. In which, you know what, we're gonna sacrifice the one range dose for a full brew. That's worth it. Another KC. Wines of Zami. Oh, it was a double drop. I was like, that's it? And another one. More EQ key shards. You know what? I suppose these will come in handy for when I come back to God Wars to do the combat achievements. Some sharks. 9 sharks. Holy, what the? Yeah, let me just heal up here. About to wrap up yet another KC. Brought some fancy new tech into this one. I brought the Surge Potion. I brought the Missouri Mask for an extra switch. And the Actually, I already mentioned the Surge Potion. Short-term memory loss there. Also brought Death Charge, although I don't think I got to use that very much. That was a very rude P2, but we got through it. I got MVP. Let's go. I mean, I am arguably the most well geared here. Although I do think the... Oh man, I can't even hold all these brews. I do think the voidwaker is better than the ZCB here. But obviously with the way the ZCB works, if it pops off, it pops off. And that's how I snag the MVP. Just hopped into another Nex. If you've done Nex before, you'll know that it takes 10 years for the boss fight to actually start once you enter the room. In the meantime, though, switch the POV over here to 416 Hero. In a couple of pickpockets here, we're gonna reach 82 thieving. Now, do we unlock anything here? You can now steal from ore stalls and pickpocket from buyers. That's actually pretty huge. Not that I'm actually gonna do that, though. Alright, this is going to be the last trio for now. What are we getting? Runite Ore and Zammy Wines. Where's the big purple / pink loot beam? That's what we're here for. This is why Nex is so good. Just fought for my life right there just to get 7,803 air runes. You'll love to see it. Here we go. More EQ key shards, huh? These are a lot more common than I remember them being, I guess. Also, we are getting plenty of supply drops, so sharks and prayer pots. I'm going to go ahead and eat those right now to top ourselves off for the next KC. For what it's worth, I am enjoying this little next session right now. It's actually nice to do this in max gear. Like I said before, I didn't really get to do this boss in actually good gear for very long. The bulk of my grind was in Carol's top and bottoms with a Dragon Hunter crossbow. Not even an Armadillo crossbow. I just didn't get one until much, much later. Second to last KC of the session, Soul Runes and Cannonballs. Kinda baited since both had a loot beam for some reason. That's a lot of Cannonballs though, actually. Holy. Soul Runes are always good too, honestly. Let's pray before we TP out. For one final KC. Final KC of the session today. Surely a drop, redemption on. And, you know, this purple pinkish text that appears in the chat box sometimes just baits me. I thought that was a drop right there. TY4 next. Let's get out of here. We'll just leave the room. And then, like, I don't know. I don't actually have a good TP. Like, I guess with the book we can go here. Here's the bank. I'm not sure I've ever TP'd here before, actually. Alright, still early-ish in the day, so we got time to do more things on this Sunday evening. After that next session, I wanted to pot some Theater of Blood, but I don't think I have any clanmates available to do that right now. At the very least, no one gave me a definitive answer except one person. So without just standing around doing nothing, I guess I made my way over to the Chambers of Xerx. And we're going to do some more solo CMs. Here we go. Another solo CM. Last time we did one, I was attempting to do the teleport Vasa skip. I think I messed it up though somehow, so we'll just have to try again. And, well, this... Okay. That's embarrassing. I somehow mistimed that. I honestly was very tempted to reset there, but let's just roll with it. Who cares? We're not trying to go fast. Plus, we're still trying to figure out the teleport, which should be fairly simple. I think it's just running to a tile immediately. Dude, what is going on? You know what? This is a reset. This is this is a reset. Oh man, I've been here before. I've done this thousands of times. Okay, we're gonna pretend like that didn't happen. This is the first solo CM of the day. Let's get in there. Okay, here we go, here we go. So I immediately run towards the door. And... on that top. Okay. I think it's okay if I mess up like that, but I have to be... Alright, I have to be on the tile for a tick. Boom. Run back. I did it. I think I did it. I think I did it. Yes, sir, I did it. Okay, that's not that complicated. Alright, I do have to drop the overload, though, so I can equip my T-bow. Alright, while we're not going to be taking damage during the mage running here, 12-0, I am going to brew on my 15s here in preparation for taking damage during the melee phase. Also, we're on P3 here. I'm just reminding myself. Because last time I was talking on a P3 doing the mage hand, I just ended up finishing it and resetting the hand, which is not something you want. Like that. Okay, alright, you know. I didn't see what my second to last hit there was, so that was unfortunate. Alright, one more Scythe swing perhaps. Alright, let's rip our switches into the mage to finish this hand as soon as possible. Alright, no resets this time around. Let's get our range thrall going. And we're going to be 4-1ing the T-bow on head phase. Also, we are forced to brew because I keep dropping below the max 43, which I'm not willing to risk, you know? But there we go, head phase done. That was not very clean. We get a deck scroll. Okay. Rewarded for our efforts, I suppose. Wow, this thing is 33.4 mil or 33.6 mil. It went up a little bit, I suppose. But that was a 38-minute raid. Very, very slow. But you can see, we reset the mage hand, and it was a slow raid in general, and we still beat the GM time, so easy enough. Let's open the collection log here. Anytime I get a unique, I like to screenshot my log as a little update. That was KC1212 for challenge modes anyways. Well, I ended up only having time for the one solo CM, which, honestly, if you can only do one CM in a session or one raid in a session, at least we got a purple out of it, right? A nice, humble, dexterous prayer scroll worth about 33 to 34 million. Much better than Arcane, although, you know, both prayer scrolls are very, very common in the same drop rate. At least we got the better one out of it, GP value-wise. I'm currently recording this outro, I guess you can call it, on a Sunday evening, so the weekend is wrapping up, and we will be resuming the voidwaker grind shortly. Over the course of this weekend, and I think, I don't know, maybe the first clip of some Araxxor was actually on a Thursday or something, we actually ended up doing a whole lot. At Araxxor, we finished our first Noxious Halberd. I'm still sitting on that Araxyte task right now, actually. I'm debating on whether or not to finish it or not, as, you know, now that we're Aya skipping, task completions don't actually matter too much for us. And the only reason why we would want to do more Araxxor, I guess two reasons actually, is for the second Noxious Halberd for the other account, and to go after the pet for the Rancour S. After that, we found ourselves doing some necks, in which the only reason, aside from the pet, which I don't really care too much about pets, at least not right now, maybe in the future, when I run out of grinds, I'll become a pet hunter of sorts, but we do kind of want the Ancient God Sword, mostly just so we can say we have 5 God Swords in our bank from all the God Wars bosses. We ended up doing more next than I thought, you know? We did some on, I believe, a Friday or Saturday afternoon, and then we did some today on a Sunday as well. I guess we'll be doing more next in the future, although it's not really a top priority, but I do have a feeling that my clanmates are going to rope me into some more, because they're missing a lot more items, whereas I'm just missing an Ancient God Sword, which is really not that big of a deal. With all of that being said, stay tuned for more Wildy content for the Voidwaker, and once we obtain that, I mean, we're pretty much going to set our sights on the Grandmaster combat achievements.